South African Revenue Service has collected more than 1.5 trillion rand in revenue. This represents a 25% year-on-year increase on the 1.25 trillion collected in the 2020-2021 financial year. SARS has also paid out the highest tax refunds in 25 years. To speak to us more about this is SARS Commissioner Edward Kieswetter. Thank you so much for your time, Commissioner. We do appreciate it. I think the first question that many South Africans are asking is, how did SARS manage to do this? I think you are muted, Commissioner. If you could just unmute yourself, please.
Thank you. Good evening, Heidi. It's really a function of doing many small things in a focused way. There's no one silver bullet. So we would have announced, for example, that just under focusing on expanding our register, that we were able to add another 1.8 million taxpayers to the register, and that in itself contributed over 5 billion rand. In terms of focused debt collections, that's people who owe SARS money but who don't pay voluntarily. We've had a focused effort to also contribute over 67 billion rand. And I'll give you one more example and I'll pause. In terms of improving our use of data, machine learning algorithms and artificial intelligence, we were able to locate or detect over 1.8 million instances of refund fraud or impermissible refunds to the value of 70 billion rand. And then there are many other little areas of customs non-compliance, of aggressive tax planning. So it's a whole number of activities that we have collectively added over 209, almost 210 billion rand. And then, of course, we were also helped a little bit by the economy. In the commodity sector, we added about 50 billion rand, and the rest of the economy a further 20 billion rand. So it's not one big thing, it's doing many little things, and it's also the result of a SARS that is slowly being rebuilt and refocused.
Yes, definitely. We'll get into the issues of rebuilding and what has been done to get SARS back to its glory days. But I want us to go back to how SARS managed to have this 25% growth, because we come from really tough times. Our economy hasn't been growing as it should. Our unemployment rate is at its highest it's probably ever been. And COVID-19 definitely did not contribute and help in many instances. What else would you say was the biggest contributor here and helped you and the measures that were put in place to collect so much revenue?
You know, Heidi, SARS is a complex and large operation. We employ over 12,500 people. And the most important aspect is having a clear strategic intent that focuses 12,500 people in the same direction. And then the day-to-day orchestration of every service interaction with every taxpayer, following up every outstanding issue. It is just about a more focused operation on a day-to-day basis, simply doing the work that we are called to do, that has begun to refocus our efforts to have a higher level of efficiency. And I would be the first to say we still drop the ball far too often, so we still have a lot of work to do. That's the first issue. Just a lot more clarity and a lot more focus. The second is we cannot run an operation like SARS without data and artificial intelligence and technology platforms. So for example, this year, we would have been able to provide a service to more than 3.5 million taxpayers who have a standard income structure to give them a seamless experience to fulfill their obligation. So just continuing to work using data, technology, and artificial intelligence allows us to do two things a lot better. Firstly, to serve honest taxpayers, to provide them increasingly with a seamless service. And then secondly, the ability to detect taxpayers who try to get an impermissible declaration or to disclose income or even fraudulently try to obtain access into our refund system. Refund fraud is a huge risk for the Revenue Service. And as I pointed out, we have been able to prevent the outflow of over 60 billion of impermissible refunds. And then another area I can use is very often SARS have taxpayers who owes us debt. And so we have what we call a system that recognizes that you owe us debt, and when a refund is due, instead of paying out the refund, we use your refund to settle off old debt. And just by doing that, and we do that seamlessly using algorithms and data, we were able to prevent almost 9 billion of refunds to flow out in the case of taxpayers who owe us money. So that's why I say it is just more efficient, more focused, and then using data and technology to our advantage.
I'm glad you touched on the algorithms and the data and technology that you have used to better equip the revenue collector. But I want us to quickly speak about known issues of infrastructure and employing the right people with the right skills, because this was something that was of big concern during the Nugent Commission, to say that highly skilled individuals at the revenue collector had left, and there were major issues when it came to the development of infrastructure and technology that did not help SARS in its revenue collection.
So that's a very, very important point. So you will have heard me about 3 years ago say that we've lost over 2,000 staff, and because of resource constraints, we were not able to re-employ to fulfill those areas where we had lost it. So thankfully, last year we were given additional money, and we have started. We have employed in the last 12 months over 500 skills, and many of them in technical areas. Secondly, we were able to refocus our modernization efforts. During COVID alone, we have built another 45 digital online applications that creates a better engaging platform for taxpayers to fulfill their obligation with us. So we've expanded that. And then thirdly, very important area for us is in terms of data science and data analytics. We were able to begin to deepen our skills for the better use of data. Specifically also, we have done reorganization to provide focus. So let me share 2 examples with you. We've re-established the Large Business and International Center, and that has provided us a more focused effort in areas where there are technical risks. One of those risks, for example, is transfer pricing and base erosion practices. Last year, because of the focus of the LB&I segment, we conducted 345 cases, and through that raised an audit value of 12 billion rand. A second area is the high wealth sector. That's early days, but we have seen a year-on-year improvement of compliance in both those areas because of the added focus. And then the other unit we've re-established, or division, is syndicated crime. And there we have conducted over 600 cases and raised cash collected of over 6 billion and a further assessment value of almost 12 billion. So by refocusing our efforts, by re-establishing functional units that was destroyed during the state capture years, and by slowly getting our modernization program back on track. But ultimately, you're right, it's all about hiring the kind of people that runs a modern organization that is deeply dependent on technology, on data and artificial intelligence. In other words, when people tell me, are you restoring the SARS of 10 years ago? I tell them if we did that, we would be going backwards. So it's about building a smart, modern organization, understanding how the world has changed in the last 10 years.
Commissioner, I want us to shift gears now, and hopefully you'll respond to this. But how do you respond to criticism that SARS is going hard on certain taxpayers, or some taxpayers, but is lenient on organizations like the ruling party, the ANC?
Whenever I'm asked this question, Heidi, I ask one simple question: bring me the evidence and we'll respond. So I can tell you that we administer our laws without fear, favor, or prejudice. whether you are the president of South Africa, whether you are a political party, a large one or a small one, a ruling one or an opposing one, or whether you are an ordinary income earner. Clearly, we understand that there is great public interest to make sure that high-profile taxpayers, whether they are in business or in politics, are brought to book. And I can give you the assurance, we do not do our work in public. We also don't sensationalize the successes that we've made. But I can give South Africans the assurance that we will leave no stone unturned and no single person or entity will be let off the hook as far as the administration of the law is. And having said that, we are still an organization that hires people. People are sometimes pliable, they are sometimes compliant and sometimes complicit. In the last year, we have dismissed a number of our employees. We have ensured that we work with the investigative authority where some of our own employees have been arrested. And the message inside of SARS is very clear. If you collude with taxpayers for any reason, you will be dismissed and you will be prosecuted for a criminal offense. And so I invite any taxpayer or the members of the media, where they have specific evidence that they want to present to us of an employee who is colluding with any taxpayer, regardless of their status in society, or indeed that they think that we have not been even-handed and have let any taxpayer off the hook, then we will respond to that. I cannot, however, respond to perception. I cannot respond to speculative inquiry, and I certainly will not respond, as they say in good Afrikaans, to the paviljoen, to members in the audience vying for blood. We will do what we have to do. We will do it professionally and systematically. It may not be as fast as members of the public would like to see it, but we sometimes, as a law enforcement agency, we have one opportunity to get it right, and we'd rather work thorough than work hastily and drop more balls than we currently are dropping.
Commissioner, I have to just ask you one last question. We do know that there is a battle now ongoing between AfriForum and the ANC. The AfriForum is trying to get tax records of the ANC. I want to ask you if you are planning, as the Commissioner, to give the ANC a written undertaking that SARS won't share the party's tax records with AfriForum or with anyone for that matter.
I can give every single taxpayer in South Africa a written, that's already written in law, but my personal commitment that your tax information is sacrosanct to me and to us as an organization. And we have gone to the courts in instances where we felt that we had come under pressure and where we had been taken to court. We will defend that position. Taxpayer confidentiality is sacrosanct. It's the lifeblood of voluntary compliance. And you as a taxpayer or any other taxpayer listening will have the same assurance from us that we will not budge or bend or buckle. We will honor the law, and the law requires us to regard the confidentiality of every taxpayer, and if necessary, to defend that right in court.
Certainly, and the law is very clear on that. Just lastly, Commissioner, I know I said just lastly, but this is my last question to you. I just want to ask you with regards to your interaction with the National Prosecuting Authority and whether or not you are waiting on them to act on certain information that you as a revenue collector have red flagged to the NPA, and whether or not you think they're acting quick enough on this information.
You know, the NPA has the same challenges that we have, Heidi. We are all struggling. We are understaffed. We are under-resourced. We have a very good working relationship with the NPA at all levels across the organization, starting with myself and Advocate Batoy. I announced on Friday that one of the big wins we were able to get was that the investigative directorate is co-located right next to SARS in Pretoria, which allows us to work more collaboratively on high-profile matters that is brought to either our attention or the attention of the ID, and we've already begun to see some of that early success. So I have would we want to have things move faster? I can tell you that Advocate Batoy and myself are completely aligned in the wish that we could move faster. Are we moving fast enough? I think we are finding ourselves in the challenge of resource constraints that is across government, but we are equally affected by that. So both of us would like to see progress a lot faster, but I can give you the assurance that there's a lot of work behind the scenes, and at the right time, that work becomes public.
Okay, thank you so much for your time. We really do appreciate your time this evening. That was SARS Commissioner Edward Kieswetter.